We wish that stressors would only come at opportune moments, but they come when they come. When our hands are full, when our minds are distracted, those who need the most must receive the greatest grace. And that is what's so hard. Because when we're the most put out, truth is what jumps out of our head before anything else. And somehow, we have got to become like Christ. And that truth would have its place. But grace would always be that response. Those who are filled with truth end up receiving the most condemnation. There's a very little noticed passage in James chapter 3, verse 1. Listen to this one. Not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly. Interesting, huh? All those who are rushing to get their MDiv should probably take note, memorize that passage, and then move forward with fear and trembling. You see, because truth judges us. It judges us. It sets the boundaries, and it tells us where to sit down, and it tells us when to call for help. We were studying French in language school. We were in Switzerland. It's a wonderful thing to live for a year in Switzerland. But anybody who lives for years in the Congo deserves a year in Switzerland. Okay, there you go. Just thought I'd throw that down. The school had regular outings, and they suggested to go skiing one weekend. So I skied a little bit in the States, so I decided to go skiing. And not everybody could say you skied in Switzerland. So, hey. Little matter that the weather had been absolutely horrendous. We got to this place and went to the top of the mountain, and I noticed that nobody was there. And the guy who was at the ski place, rent the equipment and such, he said, weather's been really bad, and it's been closed now for days. We've had like 80 mile an hour winds. What is that, 120, 140 K per hour or something like that, winds. And he said, big boulders of ice were rolling down from the top of the mountain. He said, probably not a real good day to ski. And I said, so you're telling me you won't rent us equipment? And he said, no, I'm not going to tell you that. If you want to rent the equipment, then I'll rent the equipment to you, but you just need to just know the score. And I said, well, what do you think? And I was with a group of other students, and they said, let's go skiing. So he said, I tell you what, I won't charge you for the equipment. I won't charge you. Okay? Okay? You get to the bottom of the hill, and if you decide that you want to ski more, then come back up on the lift, and then I'll charge you. But if not, leave the equipment at the bottom of the mountain. Okay, that's a good deal. So we're putting the outfits on and get the boots and the poles, get all measured, and the skis, and it's great. We're just looking out the window, and it's just beautiful. He said, now, there are a group of Austrian professional skiers who are coming from the top of the mountain down. They're the only ones on the mountain right now, plus you. And they're just wanting to see if it's safe. I don't know where they are on the mountain yet. I don't know if they've gotten to this level or not, but if you see other people, that's who they are. You'll be able to tell by the big red cross on them. Okay. Note to self. Just before we left, he said, one more thing. Now, as you're going down, if you get a little bit disoriented, how disoriented? Uphill, downhill. This is pretty straightforward. No. He said, there is kind of an overhang because there's been a lot of snow. Several meters of new snow is on this mountain right now. And the edge of the mountain is not real obvious. So now, what we have done, we have some orange poles, and we have marked the edge of the mountain with orange poles. Under the orange pole is the edge of where terra firma is, and where just snow over about 12,000 feet is. Oh. Okay. Good idea. He said. Yep. Now understand, too, that there's a lot of fog right now. And if fog comes in and you can't see very well, then you need to ski slow. Don't ski fast. Okay? And I'm telling you, this is true. And if you ever find yourself, he said, always keep the poles to your left. If you ever look to your right and for any reason you see an orange pole, sit down. Don't move. Don't call for help. You're only sitting on top of snow. And there's a cliff about 12,000 feet. Okay. So, you get to the bottom of the hill, and if you want to come back up again, we'll charge you. So I look at everybody, and they go, let's go do this. Yeah. Hoo-ah. Hoo-ah. We're going to go ski. Sure, we're going downhill. We skied. We met ice boulders. We kept the poles to our left. We watched for the Austrian guys. There was a bunch of Italians, too. Big thing there. They waved and looked at us like, you fool. You see, truth has boundaries, and truth is harsh, and truth has consequences. He was offering grace, but he put boundaries all around us and scared us to death. We skied slow and easy, and there was fog like you wouldn't believe, but we made it to the bottom of the hill, and we turned in our equipment, and we went home. Grace is for inconvenient times. Truth is tough. I want grace. Third thing is this. Grace is meant for failures. There's nobody that's noisier, smellier, dirtier, or sicker than a child that is left to themselves. You leave a child to themselves, and you see what happens. When we think about grace, we want to paint that picture with sweetness and peacefulness. Big soft bunny. Something nice, something tender, something sweet. But actually, grace is found at the cross. Actually, grace is found with the hungry people. People who live around the corner from here. It's found with fibbers and found with thieves. That's where grace is found. Grace must always be a part of our conversation with the seekers and with the poor, with the desperate and the not so nice. It's where we want to throw down truth pretty quick. And maybe truth needs to be shared. I'm not saying it can't be. Jesus came full of grace and truth. Grace is meant for you. Not an object of wrath, but an object of the Father's love despite what we all deserve. Now, what does this have to do with children? Let me share a couple of things. Children need our eyes because they got Jesus' eyes. They're deserving of attention. They're actually easy to satisfy. Not much professionalism is actually required or even noticed. You come across with all of your glitz, and they might be just as happy with a flannel graph in Laos. Just as happy. Doesn't take a whole lot. If you've gone with us any weekend to one of our orphanage visits, you know that who they are is who they are. And those kids, my Vietnamese is pretty awful. It's pretty awful. Hello, what is your name? How old are you? What school do you go to? And they jabber. Have no idea what to say. Then look at the next one. Hello, what is your name? How old are you? But it doesn't matter. Those kids love you. Because it's not about professionalism. It's not about that. That's not what they need. They need some attention. And Jesus said, wait just a second. We're going to stop all of our great big truth sharing. Bring those kids over here. And he gave them his full attention. Now, if you work with children, they're not looking for your technique. They may correct you, but it's wonderful. How many teach from time to time upstairs, our kids? How many teach? Great number of hands. Super. Now, if you've never done this, it can be intimidating. And I've had people say, children scare me. And they can be a little bit scary, I suppose. If you're telling a story and you miss a detail, they might go, teacher, you didn't say this part. I just love it. I spent some time with Jerry and Gina and their kids during the week, and one of them tells me a story each week now. And honestly, this child, she's like a book. She's like a talking book. She can recite these stories, and man, oh man, very impressive. They listen to the stories they're telling. If you're going to tell David and Goliath, you probably better tell it just like the last teacher that told it, or somebody's going to raise their hand. Teacher, you didn't say how many stones they picked up. They don't care about your technique. I love it when they do that. Rather than be intimidated, I think, you're listening to me. Thank you for listening. And just roll with it. They just want your touch in a few minutes of your time. Jesus is saying, I see you. I see you. And Jesus sees them. There's a family with children that are growing up on a sidewalk just around the corner from us here. Have you seen them? I've stopped and talked to them. They can't get their kids in school, various reasons. See them. Jesus said we're going to stop all the seminary stuff. Bring those kids over. Second thing is, they need your knee. A little bit of time. You see, they're worth it. Our schedule needs to be flexible. If we have been objects of grace, then we should also extend grace to others. And it means that maybe you need to set aside an agenda to make room for somebody else. Say, I'm really busy. I'm really busy too. But what do you do? What do you do when you have your children and you got your hands full of stuff and one of them comes in with a banged up knee? You know what you do? You set everything aside. It's not about truth. It's all about grace. And Jesus wants to extend grace. He takes a knee and drops down and he lets somebody else hop on this other knee. I'm telling you, this is who Jesus was. He had grace for children. He looked at them and he said, I see you. And he also said, I'm going to speak to you. Heaven stops to say something right now. Isn't this amazing? I just think, imagine the greatest teacher that you could possibly imagine. David and Hannah, imagine the most phenomenal lawyer in the world, and he's expounding all of his incredible stuff, law stuff, whatever that is. And then a child comes in. Imagine Dr. in coma, somebody coming in. Oh, the greatest of, well, I guess you're the greatest. Okay. But imagine all of this great information being shared, and then suddenly everything stops. But even more so, imagine the one who set his face as a flint to Jerusalem. Imagine the one that was so focused on redemption that he said, I have been dreaming of this Passover. That Lord, that Jesus, looked at parents with kids who interrupted his theological